Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong Williams on the right side. Armstrong. Don't curse, speak English. Armstrong. Virtuous society. Armstrong. I dare you to listen. Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong. Elevate your mind. Armstrong. I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side. Armstrong. Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers. Armstrong. The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show. We have promised you that we find interesting innovators, industry leaders, people who create jobs every day, who come from simple beginnings, though. And our profile today is Michele Rollins, who was once a candidate for the United States Congress, and who joins us, who lives in Jamaica and the United States, education, Georgetown University Law Center. Michele, welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, and thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. How are you today?
I am excellent, now that we know we finally have you in the lineup on the show. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York City. Went to Mother Cabrini Grammar in high school, and then left for Georgetown for the university, for the School of Foreign Service.
Tell us about your parents and the household you grew up in.
Well, my parents were wonderful. They had a very strong belief that education was the way to success. And they came from coal mining families. My grandparents came over from the Ukraine in 1900. My parents grew up in Wilkes-Barre and Scranton. Both of them, in each of their families, decided to go to New York for opportunity, where they met. My father started on the floor of the stock exchange as, I think his first title was boy, and then he was runner, and then he was clerk, and became the first Ukrainian-American member of the New York Stock Exchange. My mother had done a lot of hospitality kinds of things, but mainly raised three girls. And we were modeling, we were doing everything we could to pay for private school and to take lessons she just thought there's 24 hours in the day, and if you use them right, you can't not get ahead.
What were the values, the three values that really have stuck with you the rest of your life that your parents have imparted to you?
I have to think that integrity was probably the most important, because once you lose that, once it becomes in question, it's very hard to earn back the respect you need if you're going to be successful. My dad did a lot of deals just based on his word, and a handshake and a word, and it was just so great to see him respected like that. Probably the second was to, my mother always said, your family is all you've got, so you better stick up for them and pay attention to them. And I think the third was compassion. I watched my mother share and give and do whenever there was anyone that had any kind of misfortune, where she could do something to help it.
Tell us about your siblings in the household growing up.
Well, we were three sisters, 3 and 4 years apart. I was the middle one. I always said the middle part of the sandwich was the best. They always disagreed. But my older sister went to Georgetown. We all went to the School of Foreign Service. And then she went on to Catholic U to start acting lessons, and went to Hollywood, did a bunch of movies. In between movies, she was licensed to do real estate. In between another break, she was licensed to be a stockbroker. And she is now a top fundraiser for NYU. My younger sister did her PhD in Russian area studies, and after she was done traveling through Eastern Europe and doing a lot of agricultural economic studies and things, she decided art was what she wanted and went back to Pratt and got her illustration degree, and spent the last years, we just lost her 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we're still reeling from that. But she spent those last years doing art, stained glass, painting, illustration, and it was exciting to see her change from where she was so successful and such a powerful career to art, and be totally happy with that change.
Talk about exceptionalism and what you learned about struggle growing up in your household. Because
we had so much love, I think struggle was a way of life. You know, you knew you were going to struggle. We knew we didn't have very much money, but we didn't focus on that because, you know, we sat down to dinner every night, even though, I mean, I later found out my dad would give my mother $3 to go to the store, and he was afraid to give her 15 to shop for the week because she might spend it all on one dinner. But the struggles were legitimate. It was, if you work hard, you will get ahead. If you do everything you can do and more, you're just not going to get left behind. And I think it was what prompted me to do my law degree and then my tax master's when I was working in the government. And in those days, nobody said, you know, what is your passion? What would you like to do? Find yourself and discover. I mean, you grabbed any opportunity you could get that allowed you to get ahead because you had to. And I think those are great lessons to learn, you know, to make the best of whatever situation you're in, whatever job you have. And if you hate your job, it really ought to inspire you to do extremely well so that you can get promoted up or out or sideways or into a different field. So I think struggle is a great thing, and I think kids that don't struggle are robbed of the opportunity to feel the pride that they have when they do accomplish. And, I mean, I've tried to stress that with my 4 children, that the greatest joy you can have is to accomplish and do for yourself and feel that success.
You know, talk about the issue of faith, and there's something that's greater than you, and that you got to restrain yourself. You got to have moral striving. Talk about that in your household growing up.
We were Catholic without excessive reliance on it. We went to church on Sundays. We said grace before we had dinner. And what I think our parents instilled in us, besides the fact that they loved us and would be there for us, that there was a greater good, and that was God, who would keep his eye on his children. And as long as you strive to do the best and to be a good person and to follow his rules, he would be there to make sure that you weren't struggling alone.
When did you realize, talk about a turning point in your life when you realized that you were born with special gifts and what those gifts were. And because, you know, the Bible talks about talents and gifts and how you should not waste your talent. And what led you to go to law school instead of other disciplines that you would have been just as good and successful at?
I had toyed with acting and TV, and we had done a lot of modeling. You know, I had my Miss USA title in my junior year because I needed tuition money. And when I was accepted in law school, I was so flattered and so honored because I thought you could use your acting talents in a courtroom when you're planning to argue your cases, and I loved criminal law. But what I really thought most of all was that I could get wrinkled in my old age and not have to worry about putting makeup on 3 times a day to just keep that image up. And the law felt more real. The world felt more real. Did I ever think that I was more gifted than anybody else? No. But I thought God had given us a lot, and we did owe it to ourselves and our family and our friends around us to get out there and do the best that we could. And I've tried to share my good fortune because I feel so lucky to have it, even though I'll tell everybody the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Talk about your days when you were interested in the beauty, the style, the entertainment, becoming Miss USA in the beauty pageants. Talk about that part of your life. Because obviously there are so many people that you can relate to that yearn for that, and that was just a passing moment in your life.
Yeah, I mean, my mother and my dad were so grounded that we never placed an overemphasis on anything that was superficial and too Hollywood. I was a junior in college when I was home, right after my sophomore year, when I saw that the Miss World contest was being held at Toots Shores, and we'd never been to that restaurant, and you know, we were always struggling to find ways to make tuition and travel if we could. And so I probably never, in the ways that you know you've worked hard and you try to be the best, I never thought that I would be the best on that runway. In fact, I remember when I won, I thought, oh my God, this isn't fixed, but, why me? And because my mother had always taught us that there's always somebody richer than you, there's always someone skinnier than you, there's always somebody more beautiful than you. Take what you have and run with it and do the best you can. And so that summer I was working and I did the contest, and I continued my junior year at Georgetown while I was making appearances on the weekends. I mean, I'm not sure what made me realize that I was on a journey, and these were wonderful things on the way. But I don't think even today that I say, well, gosh, I've arrived. I can stop doing any of the things that I like to do, or stop doing new things and taking on new challenges. And gosh, what a wonderful life when you hear people say, oh, I'm bored, and you say, my God, how could that be? Walk out the door and go, feed at the food bank or the Ministry of Caring or anywhere. Pick up your hand and help somebody. Boredom's such a waste.
Some people, it's interesting how you say you were surprised and just so humbled by being accepted in law school. Why?
I don't know. I mean, I was at Georgetown, and I'd only applied to Georgetown Law, and the kids were coming back with 3.6s and 3.8s and not getting accepted. And I just knew how competitive it was. I mean, even so that when I did my tax masters, it wasn't that I loved tax.
Hold that point. Michele Rollins is our guest, a Renaissance woman. You'll learn more about her when we return. Don't go away.
All right.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933. Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
So you were surprised that after being a beauty queen, I mean, amazing. You were Miss District of Columbia. You were the first runner-up to Miss USA. You were Miss World USA. You represented the United States in the Miss World pageant in London and placed in the top 15 semifinals. But yet you ended up in law school and you were a little surprised you were accepted. But when did you know at that law school that you belonged there and you were just as good, if not better, than any other student in that law class?
I can't say that I ever felt I belonged there, but I knew I wanted to be there. I remember going to interviews in high school when I was looking for colleges and I'd won a scholarship to Notre Dame on Staten Island, and I remember telling the nuns, "Oh, but I want to go to law school. I have got to have the very best undergraduate degree I can." And God love her, then she just didn't take any stuff from me. She looked out and said, "My dear, we have professionals who graduate from our college all the time." So I don't think it was a matter of do I belong. It was how do I get there? How do I do this? I really want to be there.
What did that experience teach you?
Well, law school taught me that you don't learn how to practice law in law school. You just learn how to go about learning how to practice when you get out. It really fine-tuned my ability to write, to speak, to put concisely into one sentence what people say, talk and talk and talk. Or it was just a wonderful experience. I loved the case studies. I loved criminal law. I can't even tell you why. I was the highest grade in my class in that. I just liked it. I loved it.
Did you ever practice it?
Well, I went into the Securities and Exchange Commission when I got out of law school. It was there I did my tax masters at night. After 2 years at the Securities and Exchange Commission, I did trial tax work in the Court of Claims for 2 years, and then I joined Ruckelshaus in the Environmental Protection Agency as his special assistant when he was starting out with that agency. I had a couple months at the Federal Energy Office, and then I ended at Interior, where I became the first female associate solicitor in the Department of Interior, and I represented the Park Service, the Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Bureau of Outdoor Recreation. If practicing it was practicing it in the government, yes, but I knew it was time to get out.
Was it unusual for you to come from a household where all the siblings were just exceptional, unbelievably successful in their endeavors?
Well, it's not surprising if you knew my parents. My mother was very demanding without being
overbearing.
Excessive. Yes. And I mean, we started out knowing we could be anything, we could do anything, that it was just there for us if we were willing to work hard enough. And there's 24 hours in every day, and he who does the most with it comes out ahead. And that's what distinguished you, not what you had or where you went or what you did, but what you did with those 24 hours to develop yourself.
Talk about marriage and that impact and how that just totally changed your life in so many ways, even in your vision as being a true, pure Renaissance entrepreneur.
You're giving me so many wonderful titles, I'm not sure that I deserve all of that. But I have to say the excitement I felt when I met my husband was because he was such an accomplished entrepreneur.
Talk about your husband and the circumstances and just how accomplished he was.
Well, John Rollins was born in the mountains of Georgia, and they worked the family farm. And the last year that he worked the farm, while he walked 9 miles each way to school, he said they made $8 for the year. And he said there just has to be a better life than this. His father took ill, and he and his brother ran the farm. And, I mean, it just built an iron determination. And to watch him in his businesses, and, I mean, he always just said the footsteps of the owner is the best audit you can have. And he loved it. And that was the other thing that was so obvious. He was good because he loved it. He couldn't wait to get up and go to work in the morning. And he was just so extraordinary. I mean, he started out with truck leasing because he said a secretary doesn't have to bring a typewriter to her class. Why should a salesman have to bring a car to the job? And so he began leasing cars to people who were in sales. And that was what became Rollins Truck Leasing. And then he was in London looking at the Thames, and they were cleaning up the Thames, and he said, well, if they can do it, why aren't we doing that? And that was how he started Rollins Environmental. And he used to laugh and say, an entrepreneur will have 10 ideas a month, and at the end of the road, if 2 of them work, you're way ahead. So he gave it his all, and, he would always say, you don't know where you're headed, but you've got to run as hard as you can on whatever track you're on if you plan to get to the next opportunity.
But he found you equally impressive. Talk about the circumstances when how you both met.
Well, John Rollins was a big Republican and a very good friend of Richard Nixon, and he was active in Republican things, and he was always promoting women, always suggesting that women go and speak for the party. And he said, get these young professionals out there. I had met him at a party that the Marriotts had given for Governor Love, and he said, that's the kind of woman that... And so he would once a year drop me a note and say, what are you doing? Do you need help? How's your career going? And I would answer back, I've just changed jobs, but, look me up next year. I might need your help. And so we were just kind of pen pal friends like that, until one day he called and said, would I like to go to dinner with him? And I had heard that he had gotten divorced, and hadn't even thought about that. And it was very interesting. At that first dinner, he laid out some plans he was working on for Jamaica, and you couldn't help but be struck by the vision that he exuded. It was always so much larger than life, so much larger than most people could think. And it was very exciting. It was heady, and it was at a low point. He was an entrepreneur who was building the Holiday Inn in Jamaica, building the Intercontinental, and the Eurodollar market took off, and he was struggling, and it was touch and go whether he was going to make it. But I never doubted that. I thought, well, if there's anyone has a chance, it's him. And so long as I can work, and he'll always be busy, I'm not going to worry about it. And so we got married, and he'd already had 6 children, and we got married and had 4 of our own. And he always laughs and says it was the most productive time of his life, our 25 years together. But it was incredible for me because not only did I marry a friend and a great guy, there was this excitement of business that he allowed me to share with him. And so I always laugh and say, if you don't have vision and you're not an entrepreneur, all you have to do is marry it, and if your eyes are open, enough will rub off on you to be acclaimed to have vision. And it was just such a pleasure working with him, and watching him help me raise kids with such an easy calm because he had done it before. He was just a very wise, wonderful, huge-hearted man.
Let's go back to your master tax class and why that degree was important, and it continues to benefit you throughout your career. Talk about that period.
Well, I found them extremely difficult. I can't tell you that that's where I had an ease, and that was the field I ought to be in.
But you like the struggle.
But everything that anybody did had tax consequences, and so tax was at the root of almost all of the decisions and all of the classes and all of everything we did. And the boys in our class were being drafted for Vietnam, and so women were getting chances that they would not have had otherwise. And when I stood next to the guy that was competing for the same job, I wanted to have more than he did. So I walked from the SEC down to the old 5th and E Street Law School and did my tax masters at night for 2 years. And it was a struggle. I would go in there and say, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? But I have to tell you, in doing business the way we are now, if I hadn't had that tax background, the greatest gift it gives you is to be able to manage your lawyers, because you never can be on top of everything that's happening in tax law unless that's all you do. But if you've had a familiarity with it and you've worked in it, then you can deal with the lawyers who are doing it with you. So that you can make good judgments. And then the other thing is, business people need to make their own judgments, and their lawyers need to help them out if they get into trouble. So often today, the lawyers just want to keep their clients safe, and they don't let them do the things that would have made them successful because they're busy protecting them. and I think that's a huge mistake. So my law degree, in so many ways, was so productive for me.
So let's talk about because you and I met before through Bob Brown at his wedding, but I didn't really understand Rose Hall, the Rollins, and Jamaica, the land. You guys have really, more than any other family in the world, more than any government, you've empowered, impacted, uplifted lives in an amazing way. And it's just amazing for people to go to Jamaica to see the blueprint that you've left for generations to come. You were there when he first started talking about it, but talk about making that a reality and dealing with foreign bureaucracies and people where there's poverty and crime and what you were able to do.
We started out with a big dream and a lot of blueprints and plans. And the one thing that you have to do is be flexible. You have to judge what your next step is based by what the interest is. So when the Prime Minister called John and said, we don't have a chain hotel in Jamaica, John thought, well, who do I know? And he was good friends with Kenneth Wilson from YTO.
Hold that point. It's going by fast, but we got it for a little longer. Michele Rollins, Renaissance woman, philanthropist. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
So the Prime Minister called and said, so you were already in the hotel business?
No, at that point we had never built a hotel. We were dividing, subdividing, making areas of homes, Spring Farm and then building homes on them. We had not been in the hotel business, and when the Prime Minister said they needed a chain hotel, John said to Kemmons Wilson, will you come and do a Holiday Inn? And Kemmons said, if you build it, I'll run it for you. And that was how that deal was put together. And then the Prime Minister, he was no slouch. It was Hugh Shearer at the time. he said, well, my gosh, John, now we've got a chain hotel, but we don't have a convention hotel. And so John went down mentally the list of YPO members, and Juan Tripp was his friend. And he had intercontinental hotels, and Juan Tripp said the same thing. John, you build it, and I'll run it for you. And then, and it just, the development progressed, and then we did the Palms that were 6 apartment buildings, 6 apartments in a building on the water. And we had a slowdown in the 70s while Jamaica was trying to decide how socialism looked to it. And when the shelves were empty and there was no food to be bought, Michael Manley came back and said, I'm a born-again capitalist, and the only entrepreneur I know is John Rollins, and I've asked him to come back and help me to go on. And so we pursued the Ritz-Carlton and opened the Ritz-Carlton in 2000 and the White Witch Golf Course, and we'd already had the Cinnamon Hill Golf Course. But the first project John did was the Rose Hall Great House, the museum, so that it could capture the legacy of the people, and we send our school children through for free. So we continue to develop, and we have business centers and moderate housing so that the people working on Rose Hall can be part of our community. You leave enough room for schools and shopping and things for the families that are working on Rose Hall. And we have a project. We're going to be building a hospital on Rose Hall very shortly. The Spanish company Hospiten will be beginning that. We've already settled on the land, and they're getting ready. Just a lot of exciting things. Great shopping with the duty-free shopping, and all of the things that make a holiday wonderful. Because you're just 3 hours from the United States, from almost anywhere on the East Coast, and 45 minutes from Lauderdale or Miami.
Talk about raising your children in Jamaica.
Well, Armstrong, the truth is we raised our children here in Delaware, and we would go down on school holidays. We were there every Christmas, every Easter, every President's Weekend, in the summer, because it was so important for them to have their education and be consistent with it. Ironically, my son Michael, who has joined me, he left Credit Suisse to come down and help me, has his daughter enrolled in Junior Plus, which is an incredible school, and it's boasted kids who have gone on to be Rhodes Scholars. In so many ways, Jamaica is such a land of opportunity, and it needs to have that opportunity extend to more people, to more kids, to more families, because the Jamaican people are such a kind, wonderful people, and it was actually what attracted John. When he was there on holiday, he said, I'd like to create 10,000 jobs here. And so he pursued finding the land, and then he found Rose Hall.
I'm going to backtrack again. I love doing this during interviews. Talk about the EPA. You were once a part of the Environmental Protection Agency. The issues that we deal with in the United States and the issues that you deal with around the world, especially in a place like Jamaica, like night and day, and how important the environment is, and fresh water, and people having infrastructure, and the role of private industry versus the government.
Well, Armstrong, that's one of our very, very strong points, because you can't develop well without infrastructure, and every government doesn't have enough money to do all the infrastructure. So in our case, we have the government has just finished the highway around the island. They finished two state-of-the-art international airports. But we've gone ahead and done a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant, because a country that has tourism and beach and diving without protecting its coral reef doesn't have anything. So the wastewater treatment plant allows us to get rid of all those dinky little plants at each hotel that don't work, and when they're full, they overflow into the water. And it's a major investment, but a major step toward protecting that coral reef so that we keep our diving and our lobster and our fishing and everything that we do offshore in good condition. But John knew when he started without drinking water he wouldn't be able to develop. So he started the drinking water system. It was in Tumans, it was gravity fed, it was pumped. And we have expanded that, and we're about to expand it again, and we've actually doubled the size of the capacity of our wastewater treatment plant. And we're exploring power, because power is expensive in Jamaica, and everybody's struggling with how to get a grip on it and keep the price competitive. But the environmental protection agencies have changed. When we were there with Bill Ruckelshaus, there was a very heavy emphasis on balance and on having all sides. It wasn't save the environment at any cost, save the snail darter, save the this, save the that, even if people are dying from bites from infectious mosquitoes and disease. He played the balance very well. He had an industry representative, an agricultural representative, and there were some very heated discussions while he came to his decision-making. Because there were some of those chemicals that they sprayed on vegetables that someone said you could put on your cereal and be safe, and then you go to another person and they say if you're within 10 miles of them, they're dangerous. So for me, it was a wonderful lesson in how to balance the issues, because people do come first, and we have to protect our people and our environment. And I'm excited to say that the NEPA in Jamaica is very strong, and you have to, pay attention to the tests they have. You won't go ahead with the project unless you satisfy the things that they worry about. And I think that's a very positive thing. It makes developing in Jamaica worthwhile.
Talk about what you had to become to your family, your business, and the interests around the world when you lost your beloved husband.
That was a very tough time for me. It was my first real loss, Armstrong. My parents were still alive. My parents died, one at 90 and 92, and many years later. So it was shocking, and I don't know why it was shocking. I mean, he was older, but he had such vitality that you just felt like he would live forever. And I can remember feeling the only time that I really felt good was around the board table, because I was back in decision-making and in something I was comfortable in, but the rest of the time I was devastated. And I'd look in the mirror and say, you can't tell your children that if they lose their spouse, they fall apart. You have got to figure out how to find some joy. And I remember one of my kids going off to school saying, Mom, I've got to leave your fake smile. I've got to leave your fake attempt at being happy. And I was offended by that, and I said, well, if I don't fake it, how does it ever become reality? If I don't try, how do you ever get there? And slowly the sun would come out, and I'd remember how good it felt, or how something made me laugh that I hadn't laughed in a long time. And I call that the beginning of recovery, but we were really struggling when that was going on. We had the Ritz-Carlton being built in Jamaica. We had the Brandywine Town Center being built on the Pennsylvania-Delaware border. We had the hotel at Dover Downs being built, where we have NASCAR and harness racing, and we were building a 430-room hotel. And it was very precarious, because all of that, of course, was personally guaranteed, until the construction's complete, and then you go out and get your financing. So it was a whirlwind, and I actually felt when I ran for Congress in 2010 that things were under control and that I could take a deep breath and I could stop and do this. And even then people said to me, how can you leave your business and do that? And I said, listen, if we don't fix the problems in America, I'll have no business in Jamaica. There won't be anything to protect down there. It's about getting it right for not just the East Coast, but for the Northern Hemisphere, for our country and for the Caribbean. And so it was a wonderful exercise, and I deeply regret losing, because losing isn't in my DNA, but I would do it again knowing I was going to lose, because I so enjoyed the experience.
How did you turn everything around? What did you learn about Michele? What did you go back to? What did you cling to? What was the transformative moment for you? And then others started to believe also, because everybody needs a leader and a force.
Well, Armstrong, I think it was like 2 or 3 years after John had died, and I had help from his financial people and from his nephews, but I was sitting in the office, and it was Friday, and the guys came in and said, Mrs. Rollins, we just don't have the payroll for this afternoon?" And I said, "I beg your pardon?" And they said, "We don't have enough money to pay the payroll this afternoon." And my first question was, "Well, gee, why didn't you wait till Monday to tell me?" But my second question was, "Well, what are we going to do?" And they looked at me like, that was the most foolish question anybody can ask, because they were asking me what I was going to do. And I always call that my baptism of fire in business, because until you have a payroll and have to meet it and can't meet it, or have to stretch and figure out how to meet it, you've not lived in the business world. And we started. I said, call our attorneys. Do we have any real estate money in escrow that could have been released? Do we have this? Do we have that? And it changed the approach that I took to it. I became much more proactive after that. And it was definitely a defining moment. But the other thing was, I was never afraid after that. Once you face that...
Hold that point. We're coming back. Never afraid. Michele Rollins is our guest. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Whether it's their impact on prison guards, law enforcement officials, business executives, employees, or marriage and relationships, Lorette is dedicated to changing the individual and institutions around the globe. Lorette's diverse network and training courses can help provide you with the tools you need to both wisely and confidently lead, manage, and supervise yourself as well as others. Lorette Business Network, a proven system for achieving success in your business and life. Please visit their website and begin this life-lasting journey with Lorette today. www.lorette.org.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong-Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
You said something important. You were not afraid, which meant you found your courage, you found your backbone, you found your innovation and imagination.
Absolutely, Armstrong, and thank God for that, because to live life afraid is just not fun. To have the courage to go out there knowing you could lose, but you could pick up the pieces and fix it or make it better or change it or do whatever you need to do is a true gift. For me right now, watching success and successful business people be vilified when they've taken those risks and they've worked and they've, put endless hours. I mean, my perfect example of that is Rollins Cablevision. When John was selling cars and had the car dealerships, they couldn't afford to advertise, so they bought a radio station. So in Radford, Virginia was the first, so that they could advertise on the radio. Well, the advertising was so expensive, they said, let's buy a station, and then we can charge other people, and we'll get our advertising for free. And a $12,500 investment from each of John and his brother Wayne led to Rollins Cablevision. And when it was sold, they sold it for $660 million. Now, people would say, how lucky is that? And I would say it represented 45 years of building those companies, of trying things, of adding radio, adding TV, going into cable, trying things that people didn't try, and earning it, because you don't just buy it and it happens. You have to make it happen. So for me, while I agree there are abuses in many areas that if we were really enforcing our laws may not have happened, I'm unhappy to hear people who have worked hard to build those businesses shut down, have to close, or be vilified because they were successful. I mean, in most cases, they've earned it.
Michele Rollins is our guest. Talk about your children and their importance to you.
Oh, they're my life, Armstrong. I argue with them, I tease them, I complain about them, but I couldn't live without them. I turned one time and said, my God, I've got 4 wild-assed entrepreneurs. And somebody said, and does that surprise you? Look where they came from. But the same freedom that John gave me to work with him, he made sure we gave our children so that they could follow what it is they wanted to do. My oldest daughter started out in journalism and went into cosmetology, and I have to say I'll never be comfortable with her tattoos, but she's who she is, with an incredible heart and a real strength and a wonderful son. And that's what you have to judge people by. I learned to stop arguing about the little things and focus on the really big issues. Who are you and what do you stand for? My second daughter is an artist in Tuscany, and we are on our way to New York tomorrow morning. She has her first single solo show at a Chelsea gallery, the Andre Czar Gallery, tomorrow night. And it is incredibly exciting at 31 to be gallery represented in New York and to be having this first big show that's only hers. My son Michael was a hospitality major at Syracuse, went on to law school for a while and said that would too boring for me, Mom, and passed his Series 7 and was with Credit Suisse. When I ended my campaign and we looked at the financials, and he said, I better come down and help you. And thank God for that. And he has 2 wonderful children that are growing up in Jamaica with such an opportunity, just the diversity in thinking and how you go about things in that Caribbean, wonderful, laid-back way while they're demanding like crazy academically, is a wonderful experience. And I have to say, my sleepovers with my granddaughter and she's in the house on the property, but when she comes over with her little nightgown, I am in hog heaven. And we read books in bed, and we swim, and we paint, and we do crafts. And the truth is, I do the things that I never had time to do when you're a mother of 4 and running businesses and being married and running those schedules. I mean, you just can't. So for me, this is a true delight. And my youngest son lives here in Delaware, and he has started as a small entrepreneur. He now has 3 Rita's Ice franchises, and he and his brother are looking at other franchises and things they want to do so that they can grow it. And in the beginning, I found myself saying, oh, my God, there's no health care there. Oh, my God, there's no this, there's no that. And I looked in the mirror and I said, when did you become this old, scared conservative? This is the age. I mean, remember you, Michelle, changing jobs every 2 years because you mastered it and you got bored and it was time to move on? Let them fly and encourage them. And it's very rewarding because they are all doing extremely well.
Talk about the importance of friendship and loyalty that you've learned over the course of your life.
I don't think there's anything more valuable. And the loyalty that I love is the loyalty when some of your friends get into trouble and you stand by them no matter, because people are like sheep. If someone strong stands by someone that's made a mistake or is in trouble, most people will follow suit because they don't want to be the one to walk away. And there is nothing like friendship. There is nothing like being there for your friends, because I tell you, my friends were there for me when John died. I mean, people call on the phone. My one particular friend What are you doing? And I say, well, I'm working. I've got my pack of files home from the office. And she'd say, well, could you open the door? I'm out here with a bottle of wine. Would you like to have a glass of wine with me? And she would leave, and I would say, God, that was great. Why wouldn't I have thought to ask her? And I think that's what friendship is, anticipating when your friends are in trouble and stepping up to the plate, because that's when you need them.
Talk about the importance of vision, imagination, and creativity.
I don't know how you do anything if you don't have those, Armstrong. If you don't have an idea what you want to do, then you're just going to do the same thing every day. Vision is critical. And my husband used to say, slow down, Michelle, slow down. Until you sit down and have time to think, you're never going to make any money. You've got to have time to think through where you're going and what is it you want to do. And he said, most of all, make sure you love what you're doing, because you can't wait to get to it when you do. So there's no retirement. I mean, it's not about, do I retire? Why would you retire from what you love? You know, it's about going till you drop with your boots on, and it's what he did at 83, and what I hope happens to me.
What about philanthropy, giving back and empowering others around the world?
Ask me that again, Armstrong. I'm sorry.
Philanthropy, the importance of empowering people, giving back, helping those that are less fortunate, making people believe in themselves, giving them opportunities, showing them that there are angels sent by God that will help them in their time of need.
Well, Armstrong, I had such a good example from my husband, who people would say 30 minutes with him turn their life around, because he showed them he believed in them, and he helped them kind of focus on where they might want to go. And that's an incredible thing to do. And most of all, he gave the tools rather than things. You know, we had huge Hurricane Gilbert, and we flew a 727 down with what we thought was the best thing after the hurricane. And I said, John, where's the canned food? My God, what happened? And he said, Michelle, give a guy the canned food. He's going to be hungry in 4 hours. We cleaned out the burpee seeds. It was September. They had what was left from the summer. We bought it all. We brought down farm tools, and then we did so that in 3 months with the climate in Jamaica, they would be eating regularly. And then we did insulin and baby formula, hospital beds, the kinds of things that they needed immediately. There is such a joy in giving. There is such a joy in watching somebody that you mentor develop and become terrific. The gift is really to you for how wonderful it feels to watch that happen. And it is more than just handing out money. A lot of people can do that, and they do, and thank God for them. But to reach out and lay a path for people when you give that money, to take such a role that you implement how it happens, is a real joy.
How is it that you find time to relax and stay in a stress-free zone, and to exercise and take care of you?
That's my New Year's resolution, and I'm so late, I'm just making it now. But I have decided I've got to figure out how to do that. There's so many exciting things to do, and I'm always wanting to tackle something new and add it to what I'm already doing. I'm trying to find that stress-free zone. There's no question playing with my grandkids does that. There's no question being on the golf course does that, because I'm so terrible I have to concentrate. But that's something I'm working on. I can't say that I've mastered that yet. There's not too many places that are stress-free, but I am trying to figure out how to maximize that inner calm so that it'll extend your life, and I'm sure of it. So I'm working on that.
We have exactly a minute and a half left. What is it that you would like to say to the world that are learning about you for the first time and learning more about you?
Oh, I'd have to say be active in everything that's around you. Be active in your politics and be part of picking your leaders. Be active in your church life and help formulate the policies and the theories. Be happy in your kids' school life and pay attention to school, because that's our legacy for tomorrow. And most of all, help somebody at least once every day.
You are truly a Renaissance woman. I don't know where all the time went. I guess you were saying to yourself, what am I going to talk about for an hour?
Well, actually, I thought you were going to talk politics because we had just come back from the convention.
Oh, anybody can talk politics. You are much more deeper than politics. We wanted to find out who you are and to share your values, your success, the hope of America, the hope of other places. And you've given us exactly what we're looking for. We thank you for that.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Armstrong. It's always great to talk to you, and let's get together soon.
Thank you, Michele Rollins.
Okay, darling. Take care.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org. Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
What we need soul food. Henry soul food. No, we need it. Soul food. Henry soul food. No, I like it. Soul food. Henry soul food. No, we need it. Soul food. Henry soul food.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.